Depression and anxiety are the leading causes of illnesses among young people. And today's guest, we are joined by Mr. Drake Masinde. He wears many hats. He's the founder of Breaking Manacles Movement, a facilitator under the Man Enough program under the auspices of Transform Nations. He's also a writer, a coach, a men's coach, a speaker, a mentor, and a thought leader in the area of mental health. So help me in welcoming Drake Masinde today. He'll help us navigate the space of mental health among both the young people and the parents, because we cannot have children who are having good mental health if they're being raised by parents who are navigating their own mental health issues. So karibu sana.
Thank you for
karibu. And I know I have not done enough justice to that introduction. So I'd invite you to kindly tell us more about Mr. Masinde and the work that you're doing.
My name is Drake Masinde. I am a father. I am a husband to one wife who has always been a woman. And I'm a father to 4 boys and a girl. And I work with men. And basically I do psychotherapy counseling for them. And I also do psychotic substance counseling for men. And it is through that I've been able to interact with issues regarding mental health, because I realized that some of the issues that affect men and also women, because I've also dealt with women in a couple of instances, stem from the backgrounds that they have. And because of those backgrounds, that's why I have a little bit of wisdom and knowledge on how to be able to tackle mental health issues.
So you have worked extensively with men in the space of mental health issues. And that's interesting because men, from what we know, rarely want to tackle that challenge. That conversation is rarely ever approached so much. So how did you manage to get into that?
Because believe it or not, most of the suicidal cases, in fact, 80% of suicidal cases are men. And the reason why I say suicidal cases is because men are the ones who successfully commit suicide.
Successfully?
Yes, successfully mean if a man decides to die, he dies.
Oh.
So, and they look for very painful deaths. They jump out of buildings, they run in front of cars. They don't take pills. Pills are for weak people. That's what men do. But men do those crazy things. So, in my time, especially counseling men, I have discovered that many men are suicidal. And it's connected to how God made them. Because the way God made a man, every man's innate desire is significance. That significance, when they lose their identity, they lose the meaning of their significance. And when they lose the meaning of their significance, that's when they feel, if I'm not good enough, why should
I live? And for them, it is either it's a black and white. If I'm losing significance,
if I have no significance, I would rather go.
Wow!
Because men are wired for purpose. That's why the Bible says a wife comes
to help. There is a purpose already that to that.
Exactly. Purpose they are following. Women, on the other hand, are wired more to security. For the desire of any woman is to be secure. And they look for that security in men. They look for it in their father. And when they lose the security, they will find a relationship somewhere where they will derive security. That's why the issues of suicide and mental health are lesser in women than men. Then women tend to talk more. So because they talk more, if a man speaks 1,000 words a day, then he will probably speak 12,000. So chances of her being able to unpack her issues are
higher,
12 times more than a man.
Wow.
That's one of the reasons why men tend to have mental health breakdowns and depression.
And when we look at, we've talked about the statistics, how men are really ending up suicidal. What are some of the factors that nowadays, the pressures that are causing them to end up there?
Okay, I think I can identify 3 just off the top of my head. Number 1, culture. Our culture has wired men to be strong, yet we don't have the fabric to back up that claim. Because you realize as we become more urbanized, the settings where men could be able to understand and learn how to be strong
to develop that muscle.
Exactly. Number 2, it's the church. The church is the second place where men are supposed to be able to learn how to tackle with mental health issues. But you realize that church membership in Kenya and in the world over, basically, is 60% women, 40%.
So they are not in church.
They are not in church. Those men are not in church. Then the third place is family of origin, basically. And now that's where there's a lot of dysfunction, because you find that if your parents are dysfunctional, then they are raising you and you're more dysfunction. I mean, there has to be somewhere where that breaks. So when you look at those 3 cogs, I call it a 3-legged stool. It is not very stable, and because of that lack of stability, it's kind of hard for you to be able to tackle mental health. You have to be able to basically look at life in a different lens, or basically go and learn. You go out of your way intentionally to learn how to deal with mental health issues. And that's one of the reasons why we hold forums for men to be able to tackle and deal with mental health issues.
Okay, that's good, because it's important to get that safe space. Because I believe probably the reason why they will not talk is, as you mentioned, they are supposed to be strong. So where is this safe space where they can show their vulnerability? Because talking about mental health, I think it also brings about a lot of vulnerability. You have to be vulnerable, and that is what you offer in yours.
Yes, but for men, being vulnerable is not fashioning.
It's not.
It's not. I mean, a vulnerable man looks weak. Yet a vulnerable man is supposed to be strong. But men don't become vulnerable in the normal spaces where women become.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you realize the people who are better at coming up with that particular structure are women. The people who will work the structure are men. So you have to wire it to favor the men, not favor the women when it comes to creating that structure.
You mentioned to work the structure. The men work the structure.
Yes. What I mean by men work the structure, men look at vulnerability. They will only do it in a safe space, in a particular environment. Men are very hierarchical. When they do it, there has to be someone who is leading the charge for them to be able to unpack. Before I came here, I was in a session of men who are a little bit up in society. They are notable in society, notable men in society. And a 30-minute session of let me call it group therapy, grew into a 3.5-hour session for group therapy, because it was the first time some of them had ever been to a place where they can be able to be vulnerable and naked and not ashamed. And for men, that is a very important thing. And that can be a source of creating bonds, which helps them deal with the mental health issues. Now, when the men tackle it, now it trickles down and goes back to the home, where now the teenagers will be able to find a place or a parent who can be able to parent them properly. Because you realize the more developed we become, the more emotionally immature we are. Because our generation is one of the most emotionally immature generations. The previous generation was a little bit better emotionally. But we are slowly becoming emotionally immature. So I'm thinking.
And by emotionally immature, what are some of the things that exhibit?
Signs of an emotionally immature, let me say, as an emotionally immature parent, is a parent who knows no boundaries. If you don't know boundaries as a parent, that these are the boundaries I have with my daughter, these are the boundaries I have with my son, how will you be able to teach this boy or this girl, for example, that these are the boundaries you have with a man? Or these are the boundaries you have with a lady? That's number one example. Number 2 is the insecurities that we see. Some parents, because of their emotional immaturity and the family of origin, the background, the culture, they are very insecure. And because of these insecurities, they tend, especially nowadays, people tend to hide it around technology. People can't have a conversation without having to involve a gadget.
Yeah.
And so that creates that insecurity. So you find parents who are very insecure, so insecure that it comes and trickles down to the children. And when it trickles down to the children, what will happen is you have children who are even more emotionally insecure. Another thing that I can note is that tendency to be very selfish. We are in a generation that is very selfish. I remember there was a time, there was an accident in one of the major highways in Kenya, and it was a gentleman who had been knocked down by a car. How was he knocked down? He was on a motorcycle. When he alighted from the motorcycle, somebody just veered off the road and knocked him down and neck off. Now, it was very hard to get someone to just take him to hospital. He said, you don't need to pay anything.
Just take me.
I have a card. Just take me to hospital. And I was there. I didn't have my car then. And I was just standing there and I'm thinking, why can't people take him to hospital? So we had to get an Uber, pay an Uber to take him to hospital.
And people were just
people were just passing. And for them, it was not their problem. So that level of coldness towards the plight of a fellow human being can only come from an emotional lack of consciousness. It can only come from basically like a background where someone is coming. Those are some of the things that when I look at and I see, especially some of the parents that we deal with, and we see how they now come and affect
the children. And now, for these parents, how do you, like, for example, you're doing a good thing of creating these spaces, but for that person who would want, maybe they believe they are doing the right thing, but they are...
that is also a sign of someone who is emotionally immature.
Who believes they are doing the right thing.
They don't believe they are doing the wrong thing.
They believe they are doing the right thing and my way is correct.
Like, and this is something I've noted in many parents. So I attended a parenting course. When I did the parenting course, during the graduation, the children were asked, the children, you're parenting, so your examiner is your child. So the examiner came and they were asked, are you parenting well? So one of the children came and said, my mother is parenting well. Nowadays, she does not shout. And people were shocked. Me too. So like 10 children came and said, my mother
does not shout. So it was a shock for them.
It was a shock for them because many parents
are shouting parents.
It came from, you saw your grandmother shout. I saw my grandmother shout. My mother shouted every Saturday morning. The shouting stopped at 2 p.m. on Saturday.
Oh, did she go somewhere at 2 p.m.?
No, 2 p.m. is when she thought everything was dark. I don't know why I always think everything is banned on Saturday at 2 p.m. You've done all the laundry, house cleaning.
I'm laughing because it sounds so familiar.
2 p.m. on Saturday, that's when the shouting stops. The shouting will begin again on Monday. I don't want to talk about my wife. She will quote. But those tendencies tend to trickle down. And people think it's normal. But that is not normal. It's not normal to just wake up and you're shouting, wake up, everyone. Turn on the radio, the lights.
And then those who are sleeping,
wake them up badly. Now, the thing is, you don't think you're doing something wrong until it happens to you.
Oh, yeah, if somebody now came to your bedroom.
Yeah, came to your bedroom.
Yeah, come to think
of it. You see that lack of boundary?
Oh, that's what you meant when you talk about boundary.
Yeah, you just walk into someone's room, throw the blanket away, open the windows. It's 6 p.m., 6 a.m.
6 p.m.
You know, that's...
Hey, Drake, you're so hard on us today.
No, that is not normal. Even fathers. I remember growing up. I grew up in Uruburu. So there's this guy, my neighbor, he used to wake up at 5 a.m. Then he had this big radio he used to put outside his veranda. And he turns up the full volume. Now, if you live in Buruburu, the court, you know, the courts are very enclosed. So if one house has loud music, the tendency would be, if it's in the veranda, the tendency would be, you can hear it in the whole court. So he puts the radio there. Then you know what he's doing? He's washing his car. So he used to wash that car from 5:30 to 10 a.m. That means you kids will not play football until he finishes washing the car, because if that ball lands anywhere near his car, he will just go ballistic. confiscate the ball. I mean, it used to be a chaotic. But I realized when I look back, that was an emotionally immature parent, because how do you expect a 5-year-old boy to sit still till 10 a.m. because you're washing
a car?
You're playing loud music. And how do you wash a car for 5 hours? Sure.
Could that explain why these young people have this pent-up anger?
Yes. Because you have stopped them from being able to expand what is in them. Like, for example, I don't expect my 7-year-old son to sit still the whole day and watch TV. You'll watch TV for 30 minutes, go out, play for 2-3 hours, come back. They're always eating. That's not dysfunction.
But
they're always eating, they're drinking water all the time, and that kind of thing. So that is expected of them. But I don't expect them to respond to situations like I would.
True.
Because I'm more mature and I'm more calm and that kind of. So I believe this thing is something that has to be tackled. We begin with the parents. After we move from the parents, now we go down to the children. So that if we are emotionally stable, then we can be able to parent out of the strength of parenting skills. And we have to be very intentional. I think that's the word. We have to be very intentional. One, to seek out information and knowledge and to apply it intentionally. And also, I think also to learn that it's not a straight path. You will make mistakes, but engage. You will always make mistakes. That's why I believe every parent should at least attend one parenting class before you start getting.
Every parent should attend at least one parenting class.
Because you always think you know. And this is the weird thing, that some teachers parent better than parents. So it's your child, but I parent better than you. I think I realized that very early, that there are people who can parent my son better than I could parent. That realization is that I call it that aha.
It's humbling.
Yeah, it's very humbling. And I remember having this conversation with my wife, telling, do you know there's someone who can do this better than you? And she was shocked. Okay, first she became angry.
You've seen my reaction.
Yes.
I've imagined now my children. You know, there's somebody who can do better than you. First, you feel like.
So you feel like, Ati? Better than me, yeah. There's someone who can parent better than you, feed your child better than you, communicate to your child better than you. So who is that person? What do they know that I need to know to parent better? So if you're teachable in that particular area, you will be successful parent children who are mentally stable. Then another thing that affects parenting in this generation is social media. Now what social media has done, it has brought things that used to be very fortified to the fore. For example, I remember growing up, TV used to start at 4 on weekday, at 12 on Saturday. And it was my mother. You see, you remember the 2 p.m.?
Yeah.
So there is no way you watched TV before.
Yeah.
And on Saturday, she used to say, you start watching at 3. But what about today?
It's 24 hours.
They wake up in the morning, they're on TV. Once they get tired of TV, they're on their iPads. Once they get tired of their iPads, they're on PlayStation. They have so much screen time that it has reduced the level of creativity even in school. And once they feel that they do not have access to the screens, they start becoming very agitated. They lose patience. And when it begins at that small age, by the time they get to our age, they become robotic.
They become robotic.
Yes, and entitled. Since, for example, if you're playing a game and every other time you win, then you go and play a real soccer match and you lose.
You fight. Yeah. So it plays out now. Outside.
So I think we need to find a way of harnessing social media and not make it a victim of our inadequacy, but an enabler, of what is content about us.
Wow, quite a lot of how to ponder right there. You mentioned something about the shouting parent and the methods we are using as parents to communicate. Probably this parent has been saying, wake up at 7, and it's not been happening. So they have gone the military way. Yeah. What are the options there? The parent, what is the emotionally mature way of doing it?
An emotionally mature way of parenting is parenting by understanding the contexts that we are in. Our context of parenting is very different from the way we were parented.
Sure.
Children nowadays are more aware. They are smarter than us at our age. They are, if you train them, more emotionally intelligent. And so that means you cannot parent them the way we used to parent. For example, discuss with them. That's what I do with my kids. I discuss with them. What time do we wake up? What is our schedule for waking up on this particular day? What chores are you supposed to do? I tell them, even my 7-year-old, 6-year-old boy, once I inform you of the expectations. Strike 1. Strike 2 is, I have a son who is shouty. He's loud. You have to put a rule in the house. No shouting in the house. Because I think everything for him has to be communicated. Capital letter. Yeah. So, but it's something that we are
and you're intentional about.
Yes, we're intentional, and it's not perfect, but we are working towards.
And I think that's the message for parents. It's not about perfection. It's the being intentional and communicating.
Yes.
What I've picked is that you tell them in advance, you engage them that these are the expectations. So that when you come now and you're telling them, this is what I would have expected of you, it's not just woken up one day and decided this is the new direction. I think that happened a lot when we were growing up.
Yes.
You'd have known like this is how we do things, and then one day you're told from today onwards I've decided this is the way, and you'd feel so wronged because it's maybe also something you want.
You don't feel like you are involved in the decision, though the decision making in a family setup is done by
the parents.
The children do not have the capacity
to make the decision.
Make decisions. And sometimes I don't understand where parents who talk about children who make decisions. But my children decided, no. Children have no capacity to make some decisions. You are the parent, you make the decision. Give them options. After you give them options, they choose the options, they make the best decision. I think when I attended the parenting class, I realized that part of intentional parenting means you do not delegate the responsibility of parenting
to the children. That's they are the ones driving the bus.
Exactly. You're the one driving the bus. You give them an opportunity. Tell me your opinion. What do you think about waking up at 3 a.m.? They tell you that's too early. Okay. What if we wake up at 4 a.m.? No, Dad. Okay, let's wake up at 6. Yeah, that's okay.
That's okay.
So why are we waking up at 6? Because we never had that opportunity to question our parents. And that was their dysfunction. That was
the fact that you couldn't question them.
Yeah,
it was their dysfunction.
Yeah. Because my mother would wake up and she told you that every day when you wake up, you turn on the radio, open the windows. Then one day you do that, she slaps you.
What did I do?
Can't you see it's raining? Oh.
So the rules have changed.
The rules have changed, but you never told me the rules changed.
Wow. Okay.
So you're thinking, how was I supposed
to know that when it is raining there?
Yeah, there's a visitor in the sitting room sleeping.
So I was not supposed now to.
Yeah, I was not supposed to do that. So we used to walk around in eggshells.
Yes.
True. You don't know whether you're. Yeah.
You could offset the interest every time.
So we were, our parenting was, to say the least, it was a trial and error. Yeah, mostly it worked, but there are things you can.
We don't have to go down the same path.
Yeah.
That the same things we went through, we don't have to pass them over to our children. Very true. Now these parents who have gone through that, not all parents have had an opportunity to get their eyes opened. Not all parents have had an opportunity to go through a parenting class. And we are trying to just highlight some of the things that probably a parent I know we have talked about the parents. What are those things that we can recognize in ourselves that we are doing that are highlighting that there kuna mahali we need to improve? What about our teens? Probably as a result of our actions, there are things that now we are bringing out in our teenagers, which is driving them maybe to depression or behavioral problems as a result of now reacting to us. What are the signs we can look out for to show that our teen maybe is under stress or is reacting?
When teenagers get stressed, from the experience I've had dealing with teenagers, when teenagers get stressed, they send conflicting signals to their parents. Reason is, when you are unstable, they are more unstable. I've noticed, especially with teenage girls, when girls get into teenage, they tend to contend a lot with the mothers. And the reason is, who is the girl's first love?
The father, the dad.
Who gets dad's attention most?
Mom.
So who is the competition?
So the mom becomes now the competition.
Exactly. So most of the time, that's why you hear girls say, daddy's favorite girl. They're trying to reassure themselves and get that security that I'm still important to dad, irrespective of all these things that are going on. With boys go on a different path. Because of the raging hormones, boys want to try out things men do. So they would want to try to be like dad. So now they need mom. Mom is the sober one. Most of the time, mom is the sober one in this particular case, because mom understands the boy. Dad is thinking, this boy is trying to be me, and I think we cannot have two heads in one house.
In one house.
Now, when you understand that, that shows you the level of maturity a parent should.
Sure. Want to be aware that this is happening.
This is happening.
Yeah.
Most parents are reactive. When you're reactive, it means you react to situations as they come, and most of the time you will make the wrong decisions because it's short term. Or two, you're passive. You just ignore the boy or the girl. These are tantra.
It's itapita.
When you keep on doing that, you become numb to the feeling that they are hurting. And eventually they can slip over. Another thing is being excessively strict or making them feel like they're in a military camp. Yet their hormones and emotions are raging. If you want a military camp, schools are there to be the military camp.
When they come home,
that is a safe space for them to become themselves. And also unpack all those things that they went through in the military camp that is called
the schools. So we've seen how our parenting styles can really impact our teens and how they react to us. How can we help them to help themselves? Because we may not have the capacity. If some of us as parents, we could be having our own challenges, how do we help them navigate this space?
Okay, helping them navigate is not very hard. It's very simple, but at the same time, as I said before, it has to be intentional. One of the things that really help in parenting is that you do not parent alone. Parenting is not a silo where you operate alone. That's why we take our children to school. They learn together. Now, when it comes to parenting and intentional parenting, it means that, for example, during school holidays, you can take your children to camps where they are taught or values are formed. This is something that used to happen years before. But with time, we have neglected that, and instead we take our children to tuition so that they can beat the next kid
So they can
or pass the exam.
The academics now.
So because of that, we lost that aspect of where, for example, there used to be Christian camps where we used to be taken and values are formed. Nowadays, I've noticed there are very many vocational Bible studies. Those are some of the places where values are formed. We even have them hidden for teenagers. Then we also have special groups. Like I normally organize a father and son walk for fathers and sons. And in this fathers and sons walk, we take the parent and the son through the process of the journey within the ages that they are going through. And we like taking children from the age of 12 to 18, 19, where they go somewhere with their father, they camp, they talk about their issues, they unpack issues. And those forums have been very important, especially in parenting, because they help the fathers understand the sons. Then we have another thing that we do for girls who are 16. It's like a prom, whereby we give them a purity ring. We talk about the kind of values that they need to have. Those things are very important for girls.
For the girls.
Girls like things that include glitz.
It leaves an imprint. Yes.
So we realize that. So that's something that we organize for the girls. So these are some of the avenues that we use to be able to help inculcate these values. And it's not a one-off thing.
Yeah, it's
something that we keep on doing. We take, once the girls get to 18, you can take them to a finishing school for girls. They are quite, in Kenya, they're not very...
Yeah, I've heard that in the European setup.
Yes, but in Kenya today, nowadays, there are people who organize finishing classes. Basically, they teach a girl how to sit down, how to carry yourself around men, how to talk, how to do makeup, how to eat with a fork. You know, to eat chicken.
So they're taken through all.
Taken through that. Boys are also taken through the same. There's another one for gents that normally happens. They are taught basic skills. There's some who are taught to woodwork, basic woodwork, how to use toys. That is for boys. For girls, they are taught about basic things, how to boil an egg, that kind of thing. And it's basically something that you can use to teach the children. So as we invest more in the academics, we also need to invest more in the social life and the social and moral well-being of our children.
Our children, very important.
There are quite a number of programs. We have some programs with Transform Nations who I work together with. We have some with, there's a school called the Etiquette School where we also partner with them in some of these programs. And there are some churches which also hold a lot of these programs where you just bring in the teenagers together and start topics. Like there's a church somewhere in Eastlands. They called me to talk to their teenagers about how to handle drug abuse in the area in which they live in, because it has the highest prevalence of users of marijuana in the city. And some of these young people were really struggling because they were saying it's really cool to smoke it, but I don't want to get to the place where I go mad. So how do we go about it? So that's just one of the forums in which you can point your teenager towards, and they can be able to be helped.
Wow. So what I'm getting is we can't be passive parents.
No.
You can't hit and wait. Because you have to, one, seek the information and get to do your due diligence. Because again, there maybe could be many people offering, but getting the quality and the expertise that you need for your child.
And also the kind of values you want
to value
impact.
Yes, in your child.
Yes.
Wow, that's powerful. And I'm sure our parents are learning that we have a job to do.
Yeah.
We have to be present and what was that word again? Intentionally seek out information and seek to understand where your teen is coming from. And before that, you had mentioned about our mental well-being. And I'm still there, the part of the men. For them, if they want to seek help or to get that emotional connection, and maybe they are somewhere far and they would want to feel, get to address that emotional part of them. Is there a way they can form their own? How can they manage? Because they have investment groups. I don't know what, you're a man, I don't know what investment groups, but maybe that is not the forum. How can they identify how to, maybe the groupings or the setups that can be appropriate?
One of the things that has happened, especially in our setting, especially in Africa, our men are not mentored. So they become men by autopilot. But from you can't just be a boy and men are formed.
Men are formed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Men are formed. That's why men go through initiation. What does the initiation mean? The initiation means you have to transit from being a boy
to become a man.
That process must be there. Whether you are a Hindu, Muslim, Catholic, Christian, that process has to be there. So after that, what happens to the man? Once you are initiated, you're initiated into a tribe. That tribe is the tribe you'll walk with during the day you live here. So I personally believe I create fireplaces for men to come together and do life together. Doing life, you can begin doing life at 20, 13, 14, 18, 17, 16. But men who do life together tend to perform and deal with their mental health issues better than men who
alone.
Men cannot do life alone.
They still need.
This is where they get mentorship. Mentorship is in churches, but you realize only 40%.
Yeah,
church
yeah, not
mentorship is
yeah.
men. So we are going out there into the corporate and we are seeking out to reach the man. There was one of the hotel chains in the city approached me and I created the mentorship program for their male employees because they realized that their male employees are becoming depressed by virtue of the fact that there was a very high absconding of duty because of drunkenness. And they were getting to a place where people were starting to need rehab to be able to do that. So they called me in. I trained a mental wellness first aider. Once I trained him in mental health first aid, he was able to come back, identify some of the men who had those issues, and after that, they were identified. Help was sought based on the level in which they were in. Some of the men, it was basically small issues. And you know, the thing about men, some of the issues that affect them are not really very big.
They're not big.
Something very small. Somebody probably told you you're too short to marry me.
And it becomes a real...
Yeah, because of the ego. Yeah, so he became a drunk. So men really struggle with small things. But it really helped the organization. And they realized even their medical insurance cover went down because now they didn't have many instances of absconding of duty.
I'd like you to speak to a father who feels maybe there's grown distance with the son, and probably the son is involved in some not so good behavior, like, for example, what you say, acting out at that age. How can this father reconnect? How can he, regain the trust? Because I think there's also the issue of trust, because that's one of the questions that we get a lot. I'd want to reach out, but then again, the two of them, the father and the son, it's like there is some
competition.
Yes. So how does this father approach this?
That's where the mother comes in. You have to work together with your wife. Father, you have to work together with your wife, because your wife can be your go-between between you and your rebellious son. Or not rebellious, you're acting out son. Because, as I said before, when boys understand that mother will always be there, you can use the mother to be able to negotiate some of the things that you want negotiated. It also means coming down to his level. You know, as parents, we like being on that high pedestal. We don't realize that sometimes for you to be able to reach that young man, you have to come down to his level. Understand that you were once there. Understand that he's struggling with these particular issues. Give him an opportunity to air it out. Two things always mark a boy: curious and chaos. Curiosity and chaos. Those are the two things that mark the life of any boy. And even when he becomes a man, they don't change. He's still curious and chaotic. That is why we leave socks everywhere.
Oh, that is the chaotic.
Yes,
Okay.
the chaotic aspect. That is why we are curious. That is why you'll see a man drive a car at 180 kilometers per hour at night, and he can only see 20 meters ahead. Is that normal? No. That's the way boys are. So you have to give him room to be able to expend that energy, because boys have a lot of energy more than girls. And so if you don't give him an opportunity or a place or a room or a space to be able to expend that, he will expend it in the wrong thing. And I think that's one of the things in this generation we are doing. We don't parent with TV or with social media. You have to do it yourself. Then you have to create those spaces yourself. Intentionally, as a father, create a space for your son to be able to expend that energy.
Wow, that's deep, especially that part of creating the space. Now, I was looking at it when, like for us, those who grew up maybe in the village, you had the opportunity to grow the muscle. Remember, we're talking about growing the muscle of maybe diligence, discipline. You had even responsibilities at a very young age. But now when we look at the young people, they are being raised in maybe even in a compound that is just surrounded with a fence and all that. And there's very little per se they can do to grow that responsibility. What can we do is it to expose them now back to the village? But now we live in the city. How do we grow this sense of responsibility in them?
One of the biggest problems I've had, especially with mothers, in a particular estate in this city, I will not name, is that their 50-year-old sons have refused to move out of home. Why?
Constantly.
Yes. What made you a success is not what you're providing for your children. It is the experiences that you went through. So if you did it and you realized its success, you should use the same lessons for your children. What that means is, sometimes it is good to take these children back to the village to experience some of the things you experienced. And by then they will not hate it. They will find it very enjoyable.
Maybe if you do it at a young age.
Yeah, but you have to start at
You have to start early.
Then as they come up, they will get those values. Number 2, in the city, boys, let me give my own example. My father used to take me to work with him. Every holiday when I was in high school.
Oh.
Yes.
To work?
Yes. So my father is an engineer. So he'd tell me, you guys have to school? Yeah. Are you going for tuition? I go for tuition for 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks, he takes me to work. Now, being an engineer, it could be any project. I remember there was a time we were working in a morgue.
Okay.
Yeah. So that was the project. I really learned a lot. You can see the way it's so vivid in my mind.
Yeah.
During that time, how to handle people, how to deal with grief. Can you imagine I learned how to deal with grief
at that
age? And it was not by just watching people, how people handle grief. You understand? So my father didn't know that was a lesson in how to handle grief. He just took me to work and told me, you're the one who will be in charge of releasing the materials from the store.
And there you are, in high school.
Yeah, I'm in high school. So the next holiday, I think we were building, he was painting a house with the supervisor. Another one, he was painting a building. Another one, he was building a trailer, bed. So there were so many things interesting. That got me to bond with him. So growing up, I understood.
That's what we are looking for.
Yes. I got to understand my father more. And that made me not be very rebellious as I would have been if I had not bonded with
him. You've answered a question I had about how do we let them know? No, sometimes they will see the parent has come in, is tired, is cranky. How do you communicate that? My job, it's hard. So it's just sometimes just let them job shadow you and give them some assignment they can handle. I'm sure there is something they can handle. And they feel very responsible. It reminds me of a time when my husband went with some 2 boys for an appointment he had. And those 2 boys still tell stories about how they went to Westlands and they were seated in an office and they were able to usher in some guests. So that resonates because I think that is something that can be emulated.
Fathers need to do that with their sons. You start at a very young age as they grow. Do things with them. Go to the garage with them. Go to the market.
Don't tell them, just go and read.
No, don't just
Stay in your room and read.
And I intentionally do it with my sons. I take one at a time. Okay, my wife wants me to take all of them because she wants her peace and quiet. No.
Sometimes we just need that. We need it.
Pick one. So she's like, where's Christian? I left with him. Okay. So you're spending the day with him. You didn't tell me how you'd have gone with
all of them.
That's the reason I didn't tell you. I wanted to go with one.
So now, when you go with one of them, isn't there a problem for some of us? They all want to go, so and maybe you can't manage to handle all of them at the workplace.
What I did, the wisdom that I got from those interactions, I always tell them, I will go with each one of you at your own time. You make it feel special for them that they're going to spend time with.
It's an experience.
It's an experience. So I remember one time I took my son to the garage to buy auto parts. I was going to repair my car, so I knew it would take long. And I needed to talk to him, especially about school, and not just know where he's at. So we went to the garage, negotiated parts, Nini. So the way we are hugging, the way... And he was so fascinated. So the next time, he went back home and told the brothers, hey, by the way, I went to Dad and he did this. Okay. So the next time, I went to the other son. This time we didn't go to the garage. We went to the furniture repair shop because there was something that was being made for the mother. And we were talking with the mother on phone. The mother is giving instructions. The phone is there. So each one of them, you give them a different experience so that they don't feel like they miss out.
And then when they share, each person will feel like they had this unique thing that they did with Dad. Get to learn more about you. You get to learn also more about them during those interactions. And then I also think you get to pass on some words of wisdom instead of reserving words of wisdom for when they have done a mistake. Yeah.
That's when you also get to pass on value. And they also see how you relate with people, because that's also very important. Because I think, I remember there was a situation where of this parent who wanted to parent like a boss. You're the boss, everyone else is subordinate. Now then you find your child is becoming bossy with everyone and you're thinking, where did they get that behavior? No, they picked it up from...
They start shouting and ordering. I have said, this is what you should do.
Then also learn that there are people who are in different places in life. Yeah.
Wow. Powerful. We are learning so much today. And our guest today is Mr. Drake Masinde. I don't think we are able even to scratch the surface from what we can learn from you. A word of advice there are some families where for one reason or the other, the father is not present. And so the mom takes the hat where their mother and their father. What would be a word of advice?
My word of advice to mothers who are raising sons. It's a very noble thing that you're doing. Sons are the princes of the next generation. You have to raise them well because eventually they will be kings. And when they are kings, they will reign over a domain and a territory. What I always tell single mothers is get a man who will be able to help you parent. Women are not able to parent men because you don't know how it is to be a man. You don't know how it feels to be a man. You may have grown up with brothers or you are a tomboy, but you are not able to raise a boy. You have to get a man to be able to raise a boy. If you don't have a brother, an uncle, or a father, get someone in church, someone that you trust, someone that is responsible, who will be able to help you be able to raise that boy. And also know that you have the help of God. The Bible says that Hagar cried out to God when they were thrown out by Abraham. And Hagar was able to raise Ishmael to be a son of refuge because Ishmael became a great nation.
Yeah.
So it is possible, even in the circumstance you're in, to be able to raise a great man. And I think that is my parting shot. You have to raise that boy together with other men. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We have learned a lot. And we, of course, will be calling you back again because there's so much more to learn. We are raising a generation in times where things have really changed and we have to keep learning. But what I've gotten from you today is that as parents, we have to be intentional. We have to go out there and seek knowledge. And when we seek it, we should apply it and be open to the fact that we may not, do it perfectly. Nobody's perfect. But as long as we are intentional and we are taking the steps towards raising these strong, godly families that God has given us, we are going to raise the families that we desire to see. So thank you so much, and looking forward to having you another time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to all fathers, I think fathering is one of the most beautiful things. It's something that I enjoy, and I keep on telling men, fathering doesn't have to be something that is stressful. Though it can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be. You cannot do it alone. Do it with other fathers. Do it with other men who are going in the same direction in which you're going. And fathers, remember, fatherhood is not accidental. Fatherhood is intentional. You have to intentionally parent your children. And remember, it is incumbent on you as a father that you raise godly children. Children who people can be proud of. Children people will want to be associated with. Children who will bring happiness and joy to their generation. So let us be intentional fathers. Those of you who have issues, there are tribes where men meet, fireplaces where men talk, where you can be able to talk about your issues and deal with some of the mental health issues. Remember, as a father, you're significant. Remember, as a father, you have an identity in God. And remember, as a father, the world is waiting for you. The world is waiting on you to be the best version of yourself in God.